I was standing in the hospital hallway watching my 71-year-old mother struggle to breathe through an oxygen tube when a woman in a hot pink leopard print dress stormed past me, heels clacking like gunfire, shouting that my mother didn't deserve her private room. Yeah, that really happened. And what the doctor did next. It became the most talked-about moment in Memorial Heights Hospital history. 3 days earlier, I was running on caffeine, fear, and pure love. My mom, Margaret, had collapsed at home from pneumonia complications. We barely made it to the ER in time. After what felt like hours of panic and paperwork, she was finally stabilized and moved to a private room 304. Insurance covered it, and I remember feeling this tiny spark of gratitude that maybe, just maybe, things would start getting better. She needed peace, quiet, and rest. No chaos, no beeping from strangers' machines, just calm. For 3 days I practically lived in that hospital room. Slept in a stiff vinyl chair that squeaked every time I moved, brought her favorite blanket from home, whispered stories when she was too weak to talk. You know how hospitals smell like sanitizer and sadness? That smell clung to me. I didn't care. I just wanted her to heal. But on the third day, everything changed. I went downstairs to grab coffee. My hands were shaking, my stomach empty. I hadn't eaten anything solid in 20 hours. While standing in line zoning out, I heard 2 nurses whispering behind me. One said, "She's at it again," the woman in the fuchsia dress demanding a private room for her husband's bunion surgery. The other giggled nervously. "Can you believe it, bunion surgery?" I rolled my eyes. Hospitals were full of dramatic people. I didn't think much of it, until I got back upstairs. There she was, Brenda Mitchell. I knew that face. Blonde highlights, tight smile, designer everything. HOA president in our neighborhood. The woman who'd once fined a neighbor for inconsistent lawn color. The same woman who sent angry letters about mailbox heights. And now, she was at the nurse's station arguing like she owned the place. "I pay premium taxes in this community," she barked, "and my husband deserves better than being stuck with common people." The charge nurse tried to stay calm. "Ma'am, private rooms are assigned based on medical necessity, not financial status." Brenda wasn't having it. Her face turned pink to match her dress. "Medical necessity. Oh, please, what about that room 304? I saw it earlier. Move whoever's in there. My husband's surgery is tomorrow morning." My stomach dropped. Room 304. That was my mom. Before I could even process what I heard, she was already stomping down the hallway, heels echoing like countdown timers. "Excuse me," I called after her. "That's my mother's room." She didn't even glance at me, just waved her hand dismissively like I was an annoying fly. She pushed the door open without knocking. My poor mother jolted awake, startled and frightened. Brenda looked her up and down, the frail woman lying there with IV tubes, oxygen mask, pale skin, and sneered. "Oh, I see," she said. "So, we're giving private rooms to these people now while hard-working Americans have to suffer in shared spaces." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Did she really just say that? About my mom? My mom, who immigrated here 40 years ago, worked double shifts as a seamstress, paid taxes, raised a daughter on her own, and somehow that wasn't enough for this woman. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Not from pain, from humiliation. That broke something in me. I stepped forward, my voice shaking. "Get out of this room, now, before I call security." She laughed, actually laughed. "Go ahead, call them. I know the hospital board. Let's see who they listen to." That's when something in me cracked. I turned and walked straight to the nurse's station. My hands were trembling, but my voice was steady. "Get the attending physician, now. There's a woman harassing my mother and refusing to leave." 5 minutes later, the hallway went silent. A woman in a white coat approached, tall, confident, silver streaks in her dark hair. Dr. Patricia Rahman. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She just had authority. "Mrs. Mitchell," she said calmly, "step outside the patient's room, please." Brenda followed, looking smug, ready to make her case. "Doctor, I'm sure you understand. My husband Richard is a respected businessman, longtime HOA member, generous donor to local charities. He deserves a private room for his recovery. Not to mention the current occupant of 304 probably isn't even paying her full bills. It's just not fair." I felt my nails dig into my palms. Every word dripped with arrogance. Dr. Rahman didn't interrupt. She let Brenda rant until she ran out of breath. Then the doctor straightened her clipboard and spoke in a tone that was calm but sharp as a scalpel. "Mrs. Mitchell, let me clarify a few things. First, the patient in room 304 is recovering from severe pneumonia with compromised lung function. She requires medical isolation. That decision was made by her care team, not her insurance company. Second, your husband's elective bunion surgery, while certainly important to you, does not meet the criteria for a private room. And third, your comments about the other patient's background and worth are not only unethical, but could qualify as harassment under hospital policy." The hallway froze. You could hear the faint beeping of distant monitors. Dr. Rahman stepped closer. Her voice lowered, controlled. "If you do not leave this floor immediately, I'll have security escort you out, and I'll also file a report that may postpone your husband's surgery indefinitely. This hospital does not tolerate discrimination or intimidation of any kind. Is that clear?" Brenda blinked, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Her face cycled through red-purple, then ghost-white. For once, the queen of the HOA had no words. She sputtered, I'll speak to the administrator." Dr. Rahman handed her a card. "Here's the patient advocate's number. You're free to file a complaint, but right now you're done here." Brenda snatched the card, turned to glare at me like somehow this was my fault, then spun on her heels and stormed off toward the elevators. The sharp click-click-click of her shoes faded down the hall. When she was gone, I felt my whole body deflate. I hadn't realized I'd been holding my breath. Dr. Rahman smiled softly. "Your mother's exactly where she needs to be. No one gets to tell us otherwise." Then she went back into the room, adjusted my mom's oxygen, and checked her pulse with such calm precision it nearly made me cry. That night I sat beside Mom, holding her hand while she slept. For the first time in days, the room felt peaceful. But Brenda wasn't done yet. 2 days later, I heard from one of the nurses she'd tried to file a formal complaint against the hospital for disrespecting her status. The hospital's response, a beautifully worded letter outlining their anti-discrimination policy, and a warning that any future incidents could result in her family being referred elsewhere for non-emergency care. Karma had clocked in early. And then this was the wild part. Her husband Richard actually came by after his surgery. I barely recognized him at first, soft-spoken, polite, walking with crutches. He looked embarrassed. He said, "I heard what my wife did. I'm so sorry. I never wanted that. She gets caught up in appearances. I'm just mortified." Before I could even respond, my mom, who was still weak but alert, whispered, "It's okay. I hope your foot heals quickly." He teared up. No one expected kindness from us, not after what Brenda had said. But that's who my mother was. A week later, she was discharged. We drove home with the windows cracked open, her oxygen tank beside her. The sunlight made her smile, and I realized how much strength it takes to forgive, but how much more it takes to stand up in the first place. I thought it was over. But life in Willow Ridge has a way of spreading stories faster than wildfire. Apparently, one of the nurses lived near our neighborhood and shared the tale at a community barbecue. Within days, everyone knew. And by the time the next HOA meeting rolled around, Brenda strutted in expecting applause like usual, but the room felt different. Cold, quiet. The same neighbors who once nodded obediently at her rules now avoided her eyes. Someone on the board even brought up a new policy: equal respect for all residents regardless of background. Brenda tried to object, then realized no one was listening. 3 months later, she resigned, officially for personal reasons. Unofficially, she'd tried reporting a Hispanic family for suspicious activity that turned out to be a birthday party in their own backyard. That was the final straw. Last I heard, she and Richard moved away. Different neighborhood, same expensive handbags, same attitude, hopefully less audience. Sometimes when I drive past her old house, the perfect lawn, the stone fountain that never quite looked right, I can't help but smile. Not because I hate her, but because justice, real justice, doesn't always need a courtroom. Sometimes it just needs a doctor with a backbone and a hallway full of witnesses. My mom's doing better now. Still on oxygen sometimes, but she's home surrounded by peace and love. Every time I see her sitting by the window with her knitting, I remember that day, the pink dress, the arrogance, the way one woman tried to take away her dignity, and how another woman refused to let it happen. And you know what I've realized? Power doesn't come from HOA titles, tax brackets, or designer shoes. It comes from standing your ground when it matters most. Because in the end, decency will always outrank entitlement.